Okay, so just before we go, I did warn you that I would ask you this at the start. It only seemed fair because it's not boxing related at all. So Macklin's take listeners, you'll have to forgive me for this, but it will be interesting. So over the last few months, I've been for the first time really getting interested in Kennedy in JFK, and when you do that, obviously the thing that springs out most is the assassination, and everything kind of becomes about that. But I became interested in it basically because I was looking into kind of like organized crime, and there is a kind of allure about that. But in a business sense, it is kind of fascinating. So there's a lot about Cuba and Castro and the CIA and a guy called Santo Trafficante, and then there's a lot about the Teamsters and Robert Kennedy and Illinois with the election. People who are vaguely familiar with the theories will know what I'm talking about. What a lot of you will also know, but maybe not everybody, is that Bob was a lawyer, graduated from Harvard, and he worked for the Department of Justice under the Kennedy administration under Robert Kennedy. So I was going to say you were there. You weren't there, but you kind of were there. You were around.
I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office then, yeah.
Yeah, and there aren't that many people to ask who were in that kind of position. So I'm not expecting you to give me a name, but but what do you think happened?
What I think happened was that Kennedy, after he had just come into office, and it was Eisenhower's project, the Bay of Pigs, and Kennedy got involved with the Bay of Pigs, and it was an absolute disaster. So Kennedy was bound and determined to get rid of Castro, and he knew that the allies to get rid of Castro were the mob, because the mob had lost all of these great casinos in Cuba that were bringing in tremendous amounts of money. So the mob tried to work to get rid of Castro. They had cigars that blew up, all kinds of crazy stuff. And Castro, to fight back, I believe, enlisted Oswald, who had spent time in the Soviet Union, came back to the United States, was a sharpshooter, enlisted Oswald to assassinate Kennedy. And the mob was not involved in that, but the mob was involved with killing, trying to kill Castro. Oswald knew a lot about what was happening because the mob at one point, I think, tried to enlist Oswald to assassinate Castro. Any event, a lot of things happen which are inexplicable. That was Jack Ruby, who was a mob guy who shot Oswald to ostensibly shut him up. But in essence, I believe that a lot of this stuff was red herring, and it was simple that Castro, to defend himself against Kennedy, who was looking to take him out, got Oswald, and there's evidence that Oswald was in the Cuban embassy and so forth, got Oswald to assassinate Kennedy. And I really believe, having studied that report, the Warren Commission report, that it was Oswald acting alone who assassinated Kennedy. There was no other shooter on the grassy knoll, etc. It was as simple as that. And I think that eventually, when we get the opportunity to read all of the evidence, which we still haven't seen completely, that'll become clear that Oswald, acting at the direction of Castro, assassinated Kennedy. Now, could I be wrong? Of course, but that's what I believe based on my review of the evidence before us.